Hello.
Hello, Frederick. How are you?
Hey, man. So I was asked the other day after doing a presentation about some website design stuff about the future of websites. In 5-10 years, where are we? Like, what are websites in 5 to 10 years? I thought that was very interesting because with everything going on in the tech landscape with AI and at least here in our little bubble, a lot of exciting stuff is happening. I thought we could talk a bit about that, like different perspectives from you and me, because I know you also have a perspective on it, and kind of just have a loose conversation. I've written down a few things that I would love to talk about and get your take on, but generally speaking, just where are websites in the next 5 to 10 years with everything going on?
Yeah, it's a very interesting idea. Websites, how are they going to look? Well, in my opinion, like the websites, I think they're going to become more like interfaces. They're gonna become more integrated in terms of functionality. They're gonna be multi-purpose, so you can do loads of things at once. For instance, could buy something whilst get inspiration from based on your preferences. So there's gonna be a lot of AI personalization. So I think ultimately they're gonna be very tailored to you as a person, the whole web experience.
Right. And do you see, like, when you say that, do you see it like you said interfaces, which obviously a website is an interface where it almost sounds like you're almost putting like, it sounds like the browser is kind of the thing that will do that for you, like kind of take a bit of Zalando over here and take a bit of something else over here. And
could be like a dashboard,
right.
Kind of. That's how I think I'd imagine it. So we have like your chat, AI chat assistant there.
Of course.
Maybe your favorite shops widget, or with updated products.
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe your calendar.
Right.
Could be various things.
It sounds almost like an OS, like an operating system, where those things, like the things you use on the internet, the different services you use, integrate into that almost.
Might as well be, yes.
Yeah. But I think that's what we're kind of seeing with a bit of the ChatGPT stuff being the most trivial and the thing most people know about, being able to do some research on it, being able to get now searching the web through it, like kind of, it's just staying in this space and getting all the information you need.
And it's also becoming more integrated in, like, since we just said, the OS system.
Right.
Like with the newest iPhone.
Right.
You can have ChatGPT actively on, helping you doing various things, actually.
Yes.
So
quite cool, actually.
Yeah.
Compared to the whole Siri experience, getting that level of intelligence, I guess.
Exactly. Boosting Siri.
Yes.
So it's like steroids.
Yeah. Making it usable, I guess.
Yeah.
In the first place.
So giving it access to kind of all the apps that you have installed on your phone.
Right. Yeah, like Apple have their own little layer, and then whatever they can't do, ChatGPT then comes in. So the UI interaction for that, where they ask, like, we're using ChatGPT for this or OpenAI, are you okay with this? Okay, yes, then they'll go to use a third party, which is essentially what it is, which is quite nice. We're starting to see that also on Mac OS, on the computer, where we're working like day to day, seeing that get integrated into your workflow, which is what I'm most excited about, actually being able to use it for something, like book a meeting or find that restaurant in that area, or book a taxi or something to that meeting, or like related to my workflow, my day to day. That's what I'm still missing, though.
Right, like a more optimized experience.
Right, and proactive too, which is kind of what you were talking about in this. When I'm using websites in 5 to 10 years, going back to that, I would imagine it would be a bit more proactive experience. So we get newsletters and emails, obviously, from, if we keep it in the e-commerce space, with Zalando. Like, you purchased this a few months ago, maybe you need another pair of that, then that gets through emails. But I imagine that experience on like an operating system or in your browser or somewhere else, ChatGPT, being a bit more proactive. Like, do you need this now? Okay, here's the buy button. Like, you don't have to visit Zalando to do that. It just happens somewhere else.
How do you imagine controlling that? I know you're a big fan of speech controls.
Exactly. Well, we spoke a bit about it in different scenarios with the whole, for it to be a complete immersive experience, for me, not like the whole AI promise. We've spoken about movies too, with I don't know if it's the right example, but Her, like the movie Her, where you have this artificial intelligence just in your AirPods, for example, going about your day, speaking to it when you need something, want to have a conversation, want to research something, whatever. But until we can get that immersive experience, like through voice, saying, I would like to do this or remind me to do that, which we can to some extent with Siri, but taking it to the next level and integrating to these different websites that I use day to day or every month, being able to say, hey, get me that. Like, you remember those socks I bought 2 months ago? I need a fresh pair. Through Zalando, it knows my size and know all of that, which Zalando already does. So kind of just bridging that gap between ChatGPT voice recognition and then Siri and then Zalando, and having that middle layer. Like, that's what I imagine.
Well, then in that case, that would kind of remove the website interface as we know it, right?
Exactly. That's my whole point.
Paradox.
Yeah, exactly. As a website in 5 to 10 years is going to be less websites. Like the feeling we have now, websites going to a URL, is going to be less. It's going to be less of that, I think.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that we would have to consider prior to that.
For sure.
Accessibility.
So much.
Privacy.
Yes.
I don't know. I think you'd be okay with it listening to you at all times.
Yeah, the privacy thing is the biggest issue, I think.
Yeah.
Because initially I don't think I would. Because it just takes people and users in general to adapt new technologies, and being okay with all of this just takes a long time. You and me might be on the forefront of people okay with that, but obviously the majority of people would take some time to be comfortable with something like that, I imagine. But accessibility, right? That's a good example where I think it might actually improve the general accessibility issues we have now, because we're all, like, when we make a website, we have to think about accessibility. Yeah. When they make a website, they have to. But if we have some sort of big company kind of making, if we have fewer access points, I guess, and fewer people making stuff with a UI, then accessibility just less of an issue, because there's less people who need to manage that, kind of unifying that experience on big services.
Yeah, depends what kind of accessibility issue we're talking about.
For sure.
Speech impairment, then you need the visuals.
You need something.
Vision impairment, then you need the speech to control it.
For example.
So there has to be room for both. I think that's why, they have to be unified in that way.
They'll definitely coexist.
Yeah.
For sure, and for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But I think at least I saw a stat the other day with the AI agents, which is kind of this vehicle, I guess, for doing some of this, what we're talking about, where I can ask an AI agent to do certain things, and they will browse the web for me and do the things. Privacy issues, potentially accessibility issues, depending on how the websites are built today, if they can actually access it. But they're quite good at that, I hear. But like AI agents being right now in the early 2025 is like 0.2% of all website traffic. I don't know where I found that stat, but that seems reasonable to me, and I think we'll see over the next 5 to 10 years that increasing quite a lot. Like the majority of activity on websites is going to be not from like you and me. It's going to be from systems or.
So the visuals aren't going to be as important as they are today.
Right, that's what I would assume. Like the practice of putting a lot of effort into designing something that is on brand and looks great or looks very modern and using the latest technologies is going to be less crucial. Like having a really well-structured bare bones HTML, CSS kind of thing with great navigation, like at least technically, good alternative copies for images, just being optimized for a machine to use, essentially.
Yeah,
I think we're going to see that becoming more important, like kind of maybe going a bit back in terms of us using WebGL, like all these cool technologies, because it's just less important, but also maybe counterintuitive for AI agents to kind of navigate that space. They are quite clever. I don't know too much about it, but I could see some of these things.
I think web design, it's progressive in the way that I know some people take it competitively these days. So I think obviously on one side, like the extreme side, that the websites are going to become so redundant to the point where it's just text blocks with alt text for images. It's like a dystopian kind of outlook on it, where people that have a general passion and they value their craft are still going to do sites that are that include those things, visuals and micro interactions, and really telling the story through that medium.
For sure, there'll always be those people, and I think to some extent those people will also become even more important, like those who push like that experience, because in some instances you can't be carried all the way through like voice or however it's going to be. You have to visit that website at some point, maybe. So when you visit that website, the experience in some cases might need to be really extraordinary. So you need those people who can do that craft very, very well.
But that's where I see AI stepping in terms of like tailoring the visuals to the person's preferences. So if you do have this AI buddy that really knows you, then he's maybe able to convert the website into something that you will find visually appealing, or whether it we talked about accessibility. If you are colorblind, edit the colors so it's easier for you to see stuff.
Yeah, I like that. Yes, that's interesting, because that also requires, I would imagine, AI can do a lot of good stuff. It's quite intelligent on that part with code too, but I love the accessibility angle. But that may be also, for it to be really good at doing stuff like that, like tailor the experience to you specifically, I think also like the level of craziness going on that website also needs to be somewhat maintained, like plain or simple, for it to really adapt nicely to those experiences.
I guess the web, like the backend, has to be set up in a way that it's able to pick up those tokens and edit them accordingly to your preferences.
For sure. Maybe you can do that today too, kind of depending on the like light and dark mode.
Yeah,
exactly. So being able to switch between these behaviors and visuals. But what you're talking about is basically just AI doing it for you, like on the go.
Yeah,
which is very, very, very smart. I'm sure people are working on that too, from an accessibility standpoint. But I think going back to the whole website experience, where do you see like these visuals? Because you're very crafty and very visual. And we spend a lot of time here too, working on creating something that sets people, like companies, apart from others through visuals. It's a big part of it. Tone of voice and stuff too, but visuals, first impressions. If that becomes less important I don't know if less important might not be the right choice of words, but maybe less people will see it. Like, how do you see that? How do you see yourself approaching something like that as a designer too, or companies in general, how they should think about it? Do you have a take on that?
If I'm not focused on the visuals, then we would have to like focus on the things we just mentioned, like the clear navigation, the clear typography.
Sure.
Like by typography I mean messaging.
Yes.
And I think kind of communicating like the core aspects of the company.
Right. Because I don't know how the AI agent obviously can take words and then change them to the user, but I would imagine maybe something like tone of voice becomes more important too, because maybe tone of voice is the only thing you hear through your headset.
But if we combine the two ideas of AI personalizing the website,
yes,
essentially for you, but then you're browsing the website with an AI agent, so there's like a constant loop between the AIs. And we as humans are entirely, excluded from this process. So we don't really even get to not even see it. But what we hear is a translation of a translation via AI.
Sure.
So it's just like this kind of
Yes.
Circle, feedback loop
Exactly.
between them.
And my point is then that all of that becomes redundant and unnecessary, and the whole point is just for you to.
And then websites are gone.
Exactly. That's
We don't even need them.
that's my point. Meaning that, well, at least the web as we know it, but of course, like certain website will always have certain websites, of course. But my point is just that, let's say for fun, website traffic by users will be in the next 5 years, maybe 20% less. So 20% of all website traffic will be AI agents or some sort of machine doing the browsing for you, purchasing those airplane tickets or finding that next trip or buying your groceries.
Right.
That's not completely insane to believe. We're already seeing that now, like people being able to do that through.
I think most of the websites, they transition into apps anyway. Like when do you ever go to Zalando
on the website?
On the website?
Okay, I honestly do that.
You do that, but
the app, sure.
You do. You can also use the app.
I have a great app.
I think something crazy like 60% of web traffic is via mobile anyway. So I think the focus, maybe desktop is just gonna be forgotten, and the focus on mobile first design, as it is now, it is now,
but even more so.
Yeah.
Like I think my ideal, talking about all these big websites, like the websites we visit to do stuff, even small websites. I think without being too technical, them saying, okay, AI agents and this way of navigating as we know it is not really the case anymore. We need to hyper focus on creating an experience that works without people viewing our website, like navigating through whatever. And then maybe even like creating an API that is just solely focused on that experience. Like if people come through, or ChatGPT being able to tap into that, just using ChatGPT because that's the biggest and that's the one I know the most. But there are a lot of these companies just building cool tech around AI agents, all of this stuff.
So what would a company do? I think they'll probably utilize newsletters, because if you have an AI agent plugged into your Gmail, for instance, or whatever inbox you use, then pushing your services through that, because I'd imagine your AI agent would, or you got an email from this and this, depending on of the context, you would get whatever the company is trying to provide you with in your earphone.
Sure.
So I think they would have to start tapping into those strategies, because websites are not going to be relevant.
Well, maybe I'm not going to visit them as much anymore, but I think I would take it a step further, talking about the privacy stuff. I would just talking about the OS experience you started talking about, where when I open my computer or open whatever I do, there's an app. I open that app, and that app is just, let's say it's OpenAI. They built something, kind of like a little OS experience. I've allowed it to tap into all these accounts I have on Zalando, my bank, my Messenger, my Outlook, all of that. We see services doing that now to kind of control something, like do some auto booking in your calendar. So that's not insane. But if I just assume that I allow it to sign into Zalando, and all my payment information is already saved in Zalando, like everything is there and ready to go for me, not for all users, but for me. So being able to just tap my headset and say, buy this and this, or do this and this, seems very straightforward to me. And it also seems very productive and efficient to me. Like, I would love that.
Yeah, I get that. I get your point and where you're coming from. But I think personally, to me, the whole online shopping experience is a lot about browsing.
Yes.
So I still would need to, it's just as if I'm in a store looking through products, and on online shops I can't touch them, but I still get the visuals. They do enough for me in order to be able to pick my my choice.
Sure. Yeah, there's a model wearing it, my little video of them walking
you
around.
Might be a very practical person, and when you talk about socks, I mean, I don't have to, I just Uniqlo white and black,
exactly,
so I rock. But
easy.
If I want something else, something more, extravagant than socks,
Sure.
then I think I need the visuals in order to really sell me that thing.
I get that. You're poking holes in my my arguments here. Okay, yeah. So let's imagine that just for fun, because I do agree with you that becomes more is really just for things that you already know or have already purchased. It's like simple reordering of things.
Yeah,
quite simple. You've mentioned that too a few times, like augmented reality, like adding that additional layer. I'm trying to get rid of websites here really badly.
Yeah, you're really trying to get rid of websites.
Let's combine all technologies in the world. That's not quite ready yet.
Yeah.
But like, okay, so we have AI agent, great, doing my best buddy, doing stuff everywhere for me. Can access my accounts, buy stuff, great. Knows all my payment details too. Like we see the Ray-Ban glasses, right?
Yeah.
And this whole...
Now you can put them as a face filter on.
Exactly.
With AR.
Exactly. So just staying in that mindset of Facebook or Meta, creating these great sunglasses or whatever it is, and I'm able to see this stuff in front of me, right? So I'm locked in with my AirPods. I have my Ray-Bans on. I want to buy a new fleece, bit more tactical.
Yeah.
Don't want the Patagonia that I already have. Give me some options. It goes in and searches on Zalando, for example, like first place, or maybe I ask it to.
Based on your preferences, and
it already knows me.
Yeah, okay, you get free choices.
Exactly.
And you imagine you're seeing them there.
I imagine them popping up like a carousel in front of me. Tuk, tuk, tuk.
Boom, you walk into a post.
Okay, sure. Let's imagine I'm sitting down. I know there's a lot of, but I'm just talking about the general customer experience of being able to, not visiting that website. Or not, sure, if I just focus on Zalando, sure, I can visit Zalando, but I want to get the best deal. Like so I find this fleece I like. Okay, now give me the best deal on that.
Fair.
On stores in Copenhagen.
Super helpful.
Easy, index everything. Show me 3 shops, prices, everything, because it scans the website. We can do that too already. But the AI agent does that for me.
Yeah.
So I don't need to visit anything. Then we're moving into territory where it becomes a bit more practical, I think, for me as a consumer. Sure, I can go to Zalando. I have time in the world to do that, but it's just fantasizing about the idea of not having to visit an e-com shop is obviously easier than being able to visit like any other kind of stuff. E-commerce is maybe a bit more simple, but like our clients, for example, a SaaS solution, like having to look at software, obviously that process might be a bit more difficult. Or do you see that as maybe being easier than?
Well, maybe if we're talking about software, having an AI agent accessing the data points from the software, and wherever it is, you get the kind of summary of I don't know how many sales you've made today,
sure,
or how many customer tickets are. Whatever it is, just getting a summary, and
definitely
instead of you having to do the manual labor, optimizing that experience, I think would be very useful. And
completely agree on that. I was actually talking about like the marketing websites, but the platform for sure, like AI agents in general, being your best buddy, integrate into your CRM and your prop binder tool, your B2 Green, and like whatever it is. That's more simple, I would say, than the website experience, because that's just so much data just to give it to you, and that's so good at crunching that data.
Yeah,
I completely agree. There was somebody there was a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk in general, but like SaaS being like this dying concept, software as a service, people building software to sell to people, that kind of dying off slowly because everything is going to be API based, or everybody's vibe coding, as we talked about before we started this too. Like everybody, you can build your own little microservice over here, and then it's just yours.
Yeah,
built with AI. I kind of believe in that too, but
then we're sort of tapping into this environment of you customizing your ideal environment where you work in, and whatever you use, whatever widget you need to be seeing at all times.
Exactly.
So I don't think software as a service is dying, but maybe the extensivity of what it can do, the software can do,
like the UI of it,
just like the functions, and tapping into smaller, like breaking it down
Hmm.
into the different kind of mini apps that you need, and building your own solutions based on, like you said, APIs. And
APIs, yes. I love that idea. Like the internet in general is very boring and sterile. It's like just like as a whole, it's all
Yeah.
the same, very generic. Everybody's building the same thing or like a slight variation of the same thing. Just being able to use an AI tool to build your little OS for work or for home or for travel or whatever it is sounds. I hope somebody's building that. I would love that because it's just data.
Yeah.
And if the data structures nicely, which it is in most of these, maybe not most, but a lot of places,
Yeah.
then being able to say, I need to see this sort of dashboard thing, this widget, making that with AI is super simple. Get the data, visualize it.
Yeah, I think that's what I meant by starting off this episode as websites being interfaces.
Yes.
So they're translating into this environment, and you create your own solution.
Yes. Create your own
It's
little
very
website.
interesting.
It's very interesting.
And then we take it a layer further and then enhance this interface with, I don't know, AR or
Sure.
holographic UI or
Sure.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
whatever sci-fi
crazy.
movie we're tapping into right now.
For sure. Okay. There's something in this that, because I'm thinking about like in 5 years' time, if somebody comes and asks us for a website, like help us design this website, it really depends on the target audience.
5 years
too.
time, I think it's not much.
No, it sounds
not
like
much
a lot,
gonna
but
change. It's
no.
gonna be.
But
If we're talking 50 years, then
Sure.
we can
50 years. I mean, I'm thinking about these classic websites, which the only thing they do is present a company and show a lot of information. Like these websites, we will always have them, I imagine.
I think so. I agree. I think we need them. Maybe
I don't think we need them. Yes,
we do need
we
them.
do need them. Okay,
when you think of a company,
sure.
you think of website, social profiles.
Okay, can we? Yes, I agree.
You need those, especially these days. In the digital world we live in right now.
Right. But okay, just for the sake of discussing the whole. Let's say we have like a big corporation. Let's take Coca-Cola. They have a website.
I've never visited Coca-Cola's website.
That's my point. Imagine all the energy. Somebody built that. I'm sure it took a lot of energy. It cost a lot of money too. But my point is, okay, what website can we talk about? Coca-Cola is fine. Just big corporation, big website, bunch of text, right? The whole purpose is just to read about Coca-Cola. Could be anything, a small Danish company too. My point is just all that data, instead of building a flashy UI, talking about colors, making a hamburger menu on mobile, like doing all that labor, just having that data available, like the About Us stakeholders, the board of directors, our vision, mission, all of that, the products we produce, just having that readily available in a nice format that an AI agent can easily pick up and utilize and regurgitate in some way in your personal dashboard. It's just, my point is just, why is that not just fine? Like in 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe that is just fine.
It is fine for the Coca-Cola example's sake. I think I couldn't care less. Okay, so I would appreciate a summary of this thing, whatever this company does. Summarize, like, when I'm looking for a company to partner with, and I need to, find the right fit for me. Obviously, I would love to use an AI assistant to kind of spit out the cold facts and the key factors that are going to weigh into my decision.
Yes,
of course. But in general, when we talk about a shopping experience, something that's less I like something. I enjoy shopping.
Sure.
So I want to take some pleasure in that.
Sure.
So I don't want an AI assistant telling me this and that what I should buy based on my preferences, because it doesn't know me well enough.
No, that's fair.
Maybe even if it does, but it's just takes away the pleasure of the act.
I get that. Yes, so for
of
you
doing the thing.
specifically, yes.
Yeah.
And there are obviously many people like you in that case. But that, yes, everybody's not the same.
No.
But okay, I can get behind that. So we still need that extremely well built, and like we have 100 developers and designers and marketing people working on this website. We will still need that in 10 years.
I think so.
Yes. Maybe I think so too. It's just finding that balance between like how
can we optimize the website for?
I think that would be a big part of it, at least.
For the AI assistants.
Yes. If we see that traffic becoming.
I agree, 100%.
And I don't know what that means. It means that instead we have 100 people working on this website, we're going to have 50 in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Is my point. Like that I'm speculating about, that I'm curious about.
Yeah, maybe simply because the task of the actual task of creating a website is going to be optimized so much with the AI.
Sure.
For the AI. So,
yes.
So that's
it's going to be
yeah.
I mean, one of the main points of a website for me at least is like brand, like getting to know the brand, seeing the brand, getting exposed to it, remembering it. You know, that's.
I agree. Yeah.
How do you think that will, if we stay in this lane of you're going to browse the internet 20% less in 5-8 years, whatever? How do you think that kind of ties in from a brand perspective? Do you think there's something? We'll obviously see the field of branding evolve in some way, maybe, possibly, in that regard, to kind of take away like the 20% you don't experience that website is going to gain that back somehow, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be very difficult for the brand to stay a brand if we talk about personalization and the website adapting to your needs.
Yes.
So I think it's difficult to say how can they stay, like, keep the brand integrity in check with all that. There's all that happening.
Right.
Like tone of voice, if we talk, editing.
Yes.
The messaging to speak to you.
Yes.
If we change some sort of colors. So that is
it's out of your control as a brand.
I guess.
Some people won't even see it ever, your logo.
No.
And other people will see an experience of it that is not built by the company, by the brand, because AI is such a big part of modifying, as you say. That's not great.
No.
Maybe. I mean, there'll be other ways, I guess, to kind of get
interesting. I don't know.
No, me neither. That's the fun thing about speculating. But I think, like, can we throw it back to like your ideal version of this? Like seeing this whole AI agent, this some sort of automation of your day-to-day tasks, I guess. Like, how do you see that in terms of websites?
In terms of websites,
like, what's the ideal state of that? Because I think you already touched on my ideal state, actually.
I think personally the way I browse websites, when I can use an app, I'll use an app. So what I like about the websites that I like the most are personal websites, portfolios, etc. So I think
very visual
websites. Don't really care for marketing websites personally, because I don't need to. If I really like a thing, I don't need to be persuaded into getting it. So I like when the website is authentic to the person. So I think tapping into that, where you can go on someone's portfolio and really get to know them through that. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's obviously very important. Okay. I think my ideal state is that customization of what you said with essentially just if we imagined OpenAI made a browser and that browser experience was just one window, and in there I've already personalized it a bit in terms of my favorite services or my bank account and like the things that I use, and then it adapts to kind of like Outlook does now. Like, are you in business mode? Are you in your private email mode? So when I'm here, my app is different than when I'm at home. Here I will see like my next few meetings and potential leads or things I have to do, tasks, right? during this week or during this day, which is also everything is just optimized through AI for that. Like I'm not touching anything. It's just it knows me, it knows my objectives at work, and then it can kind of present something to me in a widget-like state from different websites.
Yeah.
I could imagine. And when I go home, it's similar, but proactive information from the websites I use. Talked about the socks example. Need to buy new socks. You know, that sort of thing. Groceries. Like I think that's ideally where websites will be for me not that long.
It sounds very dystopian to me personally.
Yeah,
I don't really like enjoy the idea of that.
No. Not even on the mundane things. Like, sure, you can still browse.
Mundane things, but what's the mundane to me? It's
it's different.
It's different.
But that's the nice thing. You can just personalize it.
The personalization aspect of it. Yeah, I guess. But I think there is gonna be need for both.
Agree.
There has to be some middle ground
for sure
between those things.
Sometimes I'll need a bit more information, and then sure, I'll have to visit that website.
So maybe websites are more lightweight, like you said.
Yes.
More to the point. More. The visuals aren't that important as they are, but where it makes sense, they have to be. So
that's true. Depending on what it is.
Depending on the context.
Yeah.
We're talking e-commerce. Yes. Or do we talk marketing pages?
Sure. It's different. Different kettles of fish.
Many different kettles.
For sure. Okay. Is there anything else in relation to websites in 5-10 years that you feel like we should be talking about?
No. What's on your list?
I think just my general notes will.
We talked a little bit about how we would navigate. You mentioned speech.
Yes.
But gesture.
Yes.
Eye tracking.
Yes.
Tap into Neuralink, so we just control it with your thoughts.
Exactly. Now, that's a privacy issue I have, especially with the guy in charge of it. But
I'll be.
That's not.
I wouldn't want anyone to see the feedback coming from my head on the screen.
I'm sure not. That would cause some issues. But no, navigation wise, in general, I am thinking about if we talk websites that we use for like productivity purposes, like voice is definitely not a thing that would work in like an office space. I'm me sitting and talking to my computer and you talking to yours, like that's a big mess, right?
We'll have mute booths.
Exactly, we'll just be in cubes. Yes, that would be sick. That's the future. There you go. That's very dystopian. Yeah, exactly. But no, that would be more in my day to day. Still, like being able to communicate with my apps through voice. But I think in general, recommendations is going to be a big part of newsletters essentially, but just being a bit more proactive and understanding, and the AI agent being that vehicle of saying, we have some information over here from this and that. This is probably important to you because it's 4:00 in the afternoon on Tuesday. Cool. Like, because the state of information that I get now is just a bit random, and sometimes it's not timely, and like I get that newsletter now, but I'm not interested in Solana right now. It's the end of the month, or like, it's not great for the brands. It's not great for me. I just delete it, for example. So essentially just taking that information and just having an AI agent being this middle layer of me, essentially, just working while I'm not there, being able to present the information that's important to me, most important to me. I think just habits and stuff like that. I think that's my ideal version of like data flowing to me, I guess. Because right now there's just a lot of hit and misses in general with information coming my way, I guess.
Yeah.
And the website is part of that, obviously. But no, it's a very interesting time with all of this happening. But everything is going to take much longer than expected, of course. Yeah. As you said too.
You know what I want to see? 5 years' time? 10 years' time?
What?
Olympics. Web design. Esport.
There we go. Olympics. Yeah. Well, honestly, I think that might actually come before 5. Maybe not Olympics. But
not Olympics, but
that's a high level.
On the esports platforms.
For sure.
Web design.
Yeah. Well, that would just be prompting.
There would be,
right into ChatGPT.
but that's not really design. It's just prompting.
Yeah.
Completely strip that layer of AI.
Yeah.
No AI allowed.
No.
Just skills and aesthetics.
I
I think that's what's gonna be important.
definitely agree on that.
I mean, that's what it is. It's important.
It's important now. It's going to be even
but
more important.
Even more important, just to cut through the noise and the overwhelming amount of
generic, mediocre.
Exactly.
Well, some of it is obviously great, but most of it is just, it can only do so much. It can only do the things it knows.
It's only an iteration of an iteration.
Exactly. So at that point, it's not really, if you're in that lane of creating something that is new or different, or then it's not, AI is not the way. No. Then having people like you who's able to think those thoughts is going to be even more like an asset. Like that asset, having a person that's able to translate those things and make it into something tangible is, and then you can build it with AI, sure, and assist you with AI. But the whole idea of having somebody who can think original, just think in general,
delegating the mundane stuff.
Sure, yeah, just to empower you as a creative, or as a website designer.
Yeah, and it's also problematic because, sure, you're delegating stuff, but saying stuff like design me this, and then you whatever your the output is like, it's kind of limiting in a way. Makes people lazy, I feel like.
The whole AI thing is making people so dumb. Like I cannot even
explain it to me like I'm a 4-year-old.
Exactly. I mean, I'm feeling it myself too. It's just that little grammar thing. Just copy paste it into.
No one cares about grammar because
it's crazy.
You just edit the email.
But it's just so sad. But effective, I guess. But
yeah. I mean, helped me with my thesis, so
for sure. But I mean, that's where like design might be one of those, even though everybody says people are going to lose all their jobs. But in that design space, if you have that knowledge and you're able to think originally and have good craft, like a high level of craft.
That's it. If we think of it as a craft, then I don't think it's going to be able to kind of mimic the craft.
Not to the extent that...
No. If we compare it to, I don't know, like something, a manual act of doing, you know, creating a website is a manual labor.
Sure.
Like building a house.
Sure.
AI is not going to be able to replace that.
No.
To some extent.
Not completely, no.
Not completely.
No, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Especially the creative side of things. It would definitely, like a really creative, original person who's able to utilize AI in the right way will be like a major asset, I think.
For sure. Agreed.
Already now, but even more so in the future.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't neglect AI. AI is very important, of course, all this technology stuff. It's only going to make you even better.
Yeah.
If you use it the right way. But like generate design here and generate design there, that's terrible and mediocre, and everybody's going to look the same, and nobody's going to win in that game. Well, it's very fascinating.
Just vibe coding.
Vibe coding, yes. Oh, that's interesting what that's going to end up with in a few years too. How the internet is going to be.
It's just going to be coming to work for the vibes.
Anything else to say on this?
No, I mean...
I don't have much else. I think we covered it quite nicely.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Cool. Sick. What an episode. That was so much fun talking to Oscar about something that we are very passionate about, very interested in, this whole AI space. We talked obviously about how the future website is going to look, but we also traveled into some other territories that wasn't necessarily expected when we started the cameras. Since we talked about the OS and AI agents and how this space is going to grow tremendously over the next 5-10 years, Google actually announced something very exciting on the backbone of this, which was their agent space. And this agent space is essentially like the first real concept of how to get these AI agents that we want, or me and Oscar talked about wanting, maybe more me than Oscar, but wanting to have them kind of do the things that we didn't want to necessarily do in our daily lives, but on an enterprise level, which is very exciting to me, at least, because this is typically where we see issues with security and getting it actually implemented in these larger organizations. So something very exciting in that space is happening. And if you haven't checked that out, I know it's not accessible to everybody yet. It's still in this sort of behind closed doors phase, but you should definitely check that out because it resonates very well with what me and Oscar spoke about. Also, I wanted to clear up the 0.2%. I mentioned that as of 2025, 0.2% of website traffic recorded was done by AI agents. And as I mentioned in the podcast episode, I couldn't really remember where I read that, but I found the study, which was done by Ahrefs, which is a SaaS solution focused on search engine optimization, and they obviously have a large quantity of data related to searches and how people navigate. They did a study with in February of 3,000 websites and found that, and I wanted to read this up because I found that interesting too, found that 63% of them had received visits from AI agents, with 98% of AI traffic deriving from only 3 agents, which is ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini, which I thought was interesting. And the thing I mentioned was in February 2025, the average website only had 0.2% of its traffic from AI agents, though this estimate, as they also account for in the study, may be too low because not all visits done by agents are disclosed in this very accurate nature. So very interesting. And the whole thing about having these AI agents become more involved in our day-to-day is obviously very interesting for us as designers, because UI might become less relevant. A huge focus on accessibility might become less relevant. We're going to have to design more for computers, essentially, which is very interesting. We'll see what happens in that space. Other than that, I think some of the next episodes that will be coming out from a podcast focused state is obviously you're going to see a lot more of the beautiful people in here next to me, sitting working right now, talking about various topics in this space, both AI but also not AI at all. But we're also going to get some external guests on the podcast, clients, general, just external people who has a lot of knowledge in certain spaces. So I'm very excited about that. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow on Spotify or Apple, wherever you are listening, so you don't miss out on the next episode. We have a huge pipeline of great episodes coming out over the next many months. And if you think this podcast episode brought you any sort of value in this AI space, I know it's just a lot of speculation and talking from me and Oscar, but it's very exciting. Leave a review and let us know if you enjoyed it. Reach out.